Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from OurSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamong, and with me, as always, is Jamie Ueyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, July 21st, and we're going to rank some Notre Dame positions. We're going to rank the positions. Secondary is all one position. It's not corners and safeties, and we're just going to go 1 through 8. It's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see where Jamie, I haven't seen his rankings yet, but it's going to be interesting where he has everybody ranked. And we're going to talk to the Notre Dame football team. Fall camp's coming right around the corner. So let's talk some the roster for 2026. It's going to be a very fun exercise. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. And please hit the notification bell so you know whenever it is we are going live. As always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. You've seen ESQ and all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches, from All-Americans to All-Pros and associates to CEOs. You're in great hands with ESQ's custom clothing. Whether you're looking for the perfect fitting suit, a standout sport coat, or a perfect tuxedo for weddings and galas, ESQ's master tailors blend traditional hand stitching in each garment with Italy and England's best fabrics. Check out Ge's amazing work at esqclothing.com. Book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention ISD and get 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com. Jamie, it must be football season. I dropped off my kids at camp. I'm driving home, and I passed one of the high schools. And those boys are out there. They're doing their conditioning, Jamie. I got to tell you, what was the go-to conditioning drill that your teams employed to get the boys in shape? And did you hate it? How much did you hate it? What was the go-to drill?
I mean, 110s. I don't know if you guys did 110s all the time, but we always had to do 110s. So that
what are 110s? They might be different.
You're running 110 yards, and when it started in college, that's what you're doing. You're doing like the full 110, right? So that means like you're starting from the goal line, running through the end zone, right?
Yeah.
Eventually they were like, nah, that's too easy. We're gonna do it. So you do 110s, but it would be broken up into, whatever, like 10-yard, whatever, 11 10-yard things back and forth.
Yeah.
And they were horrible. They're bad. But for me though, too, even as like a D lineman, I mean, I don't want to pretend I liked it. I hated it. But I was always good at it. Yeah. Because I just had like a mental thing. I always said X amount more until one more. That was always my thing. So that's why I always got pissed if they were ever like, we're doing one more extra. I was like, nah. You said we're doing 12. We're doing 13? No. You said we're doing 12.
Oh man, that's terrible. So we used to do gassers.
Gassers.
And so gassers are the width of the field. There and back is one. And they're always timed. And it was one of those things where if like the coach wouldn't even say how many, he would always say, until I get tired, is what he would say. The coach who's not running any gassers, we're going to run gassers until I get tired. And I think the point of that was like, you go hard for as long as like, don't, because I think he thinks if I say there's 10, then guys will pace themselves. So it's like every gasser has to be 100%, and we could do 2 or we could do 20, And so, and the coaches would stand on the line, and if someone didn't touch the line, you start all over, or like the rep doesn't count or something. So it was a big if anyone didn't touch that line, it was a big problem. Like that people would scream at them. Gassers are the worst. If we were lucky, we got to do them without our pads, without the shoulder pads and stuff. So that was nice. Speaking of which, so Davey, 85, 90 degrees, no water for 2 hours. So did you guys have the pipes, the PVC pipes that were connected to the hose? Did you have that?
We had no, not exactly that. We had these other ones that were like kind of like that, but it was basically you'd go and you would, it's hooked up to something, and then you would, get your water there. I mean, I was at the point where there's still stuff that was insane that I can't believe we did.
Yeah.
Like we did double days, all like that was still like very much a thing. So or two a days for people who don't know. Like
Yeah.
two a days, we did that, and not just two a days. Like you were hitting
Pads popping.
popping.
Yes.
Both practices.
Yeah.
They weren't like, yeah, you know what? Hey, we went harder in the morning. We're going to no. And that was the days of two when they were like, he's just got a mild concussion. Like guys were getting just like there's a reason why people's brains are all messed up because of these stupid, of how to do that.
Mild concussion.
But we definitely had water breaks. They tried to be pretty smart about it. I mean, for that part of it, not the hitting part. That part was just stupid. But we fortunately we did have water breaks. I mean, I feel bad for Davey and all those. Like, I'm obviously when my old man was playing, it was like completely different. Like you were weak if you wanted water.
Oh yeah, don't ask for water. You can't ask for it. They'll give it to you, but if you ask for it, maybe not. Yeah, no, we had the PVC pipes, like that, the little holes in them, and it was connected to the hose. That was good stuff. We actually in my high school. So my high school wasn't big enough to where there was separate offense and defense. Like most guys went both ways. And so we had actually 3 a days. We had offense in the morning, special teams in the afternoon for like an hour, and then defense. So that's not a thing anymore. That's wild stuff. Anyway, just wanted to talk about it because kind of reminiscing as I'm driving by the high school, and those boys are running their laps or whatever it is they were doing. So good luck to them, and good luck to everyone out there who is prepping for a football season. All right, let's get going with this. Talking about the rankings, Jamie, we're gonna rank them. It's interesting to hear the criteria that you use because I sometimes it's a floating criteria when it, like, sometimes I weight overall talent versus depth and that sort of thing, which you kind of have to do when you're dealing with the quarterback. So, all right, Jamie, what's number one for you? What's the number one position group on the football team?
I mean, I think it's DBs, and I think if anyone didn't choose DBs, you'd be insane. Like, I just think it's pretty clear. You have a guy in Leonard Moore who's going to be a top 5, a top 10 pick, has played as like an elite corner for 1.5 seasons already. Absolutely the best corner in college football. You see the way that people talk about him, as best cornerback prospect since, like, yeah, he's that good. And then you have Tate Johnson, who, you have pictured here, who is already getting buzz as a potential first-round prospect, in his first year starting, 4 interceptions, total playmaker, did not miss a tackle against the run last year, and was like coming downhill and like making tackles in space that you just wouldn't expect for someone who is a first-year starter to play that aggressive and to be that efficient as a tackler. Even if you just had those two, that might be enough. But then it's like, well, Adon Schuler is as good as any kind of strong safety in the country, I think, just specifically with that, and going to be a 2-time captain, leader, very, very high level player, could also jump up a level this year. And then if you just said Christian Gray and DJ McKinney, if those two were your starting corners for any team in the country, you'd be like, wow, you're really returning some pretty good corners coming back. And those are likely number 2 and number 3 corners for Notre Dame. That's pretty good. Obviously, Gray, he's had obviously some issues with the deep ball and all of that, and some penalties. Made a ton of plays. Still pretty high level player. McKinney, been a high level player. Then you throw in, they got 3 fresh players who were freshmen last year who played 300 plus snaps. Guys who are going to be already good players, going to jump up a level this year. You look at the depth at safety. Luke Talek, a lead in his role, easily could be a starter on a bunch of teams. Going to be a guy who plays in the league. Ethan Long would, in many other years, people would be like, this guy's going to be a breakout player, going to be an absolute starter, whatever. Who's to say he still doesn't have a breakout this year? I do think he's an interesting guy. If like Notre Dame plays big nickel and they don't use Talek in that role, like he could be a guy who could easily play that role. And then the freshman class, which is just like maybe the best freshman class that Notre Dame assigned at DB. Bunch of these guys are going to be really good players. Some guys might be too talented to keep off the field this year. So it's loaded. It's loaded. I think the two deep, no one can match the two deep. I don't think anyone can really match the starters either. There's obviously some other good, defensive backfields in the country.
Right.
I don't think there's anyone that compares to Notre Dame.
I think when you look at the criteria of how this kind of goes, usually look at depth, high-end talent, right? And the secondary, I mean, Notre Dame's running back room last year, because I was thinking about like the top unit as you kind of go like through previous years, who was the top unit. The running backs with Price and Love were, I mean, that's pretty high-end, right? Especially when you have Aeneas Williams behind, who's a starting running back for Notre Dame this year. That's pretty high-end. The secondary, this is pretty high up there, like Leonard Moore. I mean, I was thinking about this. Could he be the best defensive back like the school's ever had? He could. Because you just fear like he might be the top corner in college football. And when is that ever kind of the case, right? Like, I think when you look at Kyle Hamilton, like he was amongst the top DBs in college, right? And so, and now he's been voted like the top safety in the NFL. So like there's that consideration as well.
He missed the second half of his final year. So I think it kind of changed a little bit.
Right. Like he's got a little bit of like the kind of a Jalen Smith to him a little bit, where you feel like, there was some meat left on the bone. And I felt like that was true of Jalen a little bit. And that was more of just scheme and the way they used him. Like he didn't get hurt until like the very end. And he was obviously leaving anyway, but it's just like that is the thing with Leonard Moore, like with him and Xavier Watts. Like, I don't know that you could find a better career than Xavier Watts had, but he wasn't the high end talent that Leonard Moore is. I mean, Leonard Moore could be like legitimately the number one pick, in the NFL draft, because he's that
kind of the combination of the two.
Right.
Think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like he could be the best player, like the best secondary player Notre Dame's ever had. Obviously, there's been some very good ones, but I mean, it just makes it so easy. Tay Johnson, I think, could be a first-round pick eventually. Adon Schuler's a pro. I think that, like, Ethan Long is an eventual pro. You have the freshman class that's as talented as Notre Dame's ever had. And then you have Christian Gray and DJ McKinney, who have over 1,000 snaps, almost like 1,500 snaps between the two of them, like 3,000 snaps combined. So it's pretty clear, like, I don't think you can go in another direction other than the secondary at number one. So I think that's fairly easy. The next two are actually the next four are kind of difficult for me, just because there's a depth thing going on. But what do you have for number two, Jamie?
Linebacker. To me, it was pretty easy to put them two.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I just look at it. I mean, other than the fact that KVA is coming off the ACL, that's really like the only thing that you can kind of point to. It's like, well, when is he going to be back and all that? And is he going to be at that level right away? I mean, he's going to get to the level that he was at last year at some point. And he was elite last year and probably going to be better than he was, because he's going to be smarter, all that. And one of the things is he's one of the smartest players on the field, one of the most prepared. So you have a guy who's, if he plays most of the season, he's got a chance to win the Buckus Award. Like that is a real thing. So you have a guy, if you're talking about some of the other guys that Notre Dame has had at that position, Teo and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who had got to that level, whereas the best linebacker in college football, he could be at that level easily. Probably already pretty close to it. You got Drake Bowen coming back, who's going to be healthier this year after the hip surgery. 2-time captain. Think he played pretty well last year, but he's going to play better this year and kind of level up. You got Osbury, is a guy could start for most teams in the country. A very good player. Snead, obviously, I don't think is someone that I would put in. I would almost put him in a different category than them because I still think, as far as we've seen, he's still like a sub package guy, but a lead in that kind of like what he can do in the sub package. Like he improved as a pass rusher last year. I think he's going to be even better pass rusher this year, and he can cover. He can do a lot of things at a really, really high level. And then you didn't get to see it in the spring because obviously he was recovering from his wrist surgery. But I think Matt Ferrero, if that's your fifth guy, I don't think he's going to end up as the fifth guy. I think he's probably going to end up probably closer to like third or fourth.
Yeah.
And maybe even second by then. And who knows, right? Like he's going to play at a level that you just see him taking a jump up. And I already saw just like athletically and just how fast he was playing. He was playing at a different speed in the spring, even if it was just like non-contact, you could just see it happening for him at a different speed. And then, you look at the depth there, and I wouldn't say that, it's obviously not proven depth based on what they've guys who have played, but Teddy Rizak could play like for a lot of teams. In many other years, he would be a shoo-in for the 2 deep, could be like push a start on a lot of other Notre Dame teams that have been there. He's a good football player. He's a really good football player, a good athlete, physical. I think you got the Kia brothers. You have some freshmen. Obviously, if you start going deeper, like you're not going to go like Thomas Davis Jr. He's going to be relied on. If he doesn't redshirt, it either means he's unbelievable and leveled up to a certain extent, or Notre Dame had ridiculous amount of injuries. But they have like 5, 6 guys, maybe 7 guys that they can play there who are all going to play at a pretty high level. And you might have 2 or 3 guys that it could play at like elite type level. So I feel pretty good about the linebacker group. Like I think in most other years, if the DBs weren't as good, you'd be like linebackers, top group.
Yeah. I the KVA thing messes with my mind in terms of like, I don't like the uncertainty of it. And I know like every report we've ever gotten is he looks good and he's doing well. I get very nervous when, and this is just like muscle memory of like every guy who's had an ACL, and we hear report like, has anyone ever had an ACL at Notre Dame and it's like he's not ahead of schedule? Like I feel like we always hear about them.
Eli Raridan, they were like baby stepping.
But they were but it was his second one though. Like the first one, I feel like is because that's the thing, and that's what makes me nervous is that
the first one happened before he came to Notre Dame.
No, I know, but that's why I don't really consider him. Is what I'm saying. Like I think we always hear about like especially
Mitchell
with,
Evans, another guy they took slow.
Mitchell Evans was one they took him slow, but it was like he's ahead of schedule. Like in the springtime, when we got to fall camp, it was like, hey, he's easing him in, right? But before that, it was always like head of schedule. Like I'm okay to be patient with it, I guess is my point. And so, but I don't know like exactly what that means for KVA this year. Like everything everyone says about KVA is like, I'm 100% a believer in it. Like he's awesome. Like he is good, like really good, like great player, right? I just don't know if we're going to get it this year. And just like that like the inkling of doubt bumps it down for me just because of that.
So who do you have as number 2?
I have D-line number 2.
Okay. They're my number 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So because I think first of all, I think Francis Brew is like brewing. See what I did there? He's brewing. See what so I think that's kind of similar. I think Boubacar is gonna like have a huge year. Like I think he's going to be big time. Like people forget, right? He is a guy, and this is true of like Xavier Watts, for example, when he is a guy, Boubacar, who right now could be in an NFL camp. He could have come out and he would be an NFL player, right? And he is not. He's still in college, and he's still like just wants to level up in that way. Like I'm talking like top. Like I think he's going to be a big story, like kind of early on in college football, and with the fans. It's just like I think Boubacar is going to have a huge season. I think Bryce Young is going to take that jump. I think with Brew, I think with Tion Gray, I think with Elijah Hughes, I think with Jason Onye. Like, I think that whole D line is just going to kind of get a bump, like just a little bit. And I think it kind of takes them to the next level. Like, I think the depth that they have, when we talk about Rodney Dunham as well, is a guy who's just like a freshman who, like, because to me, it's like the depth. And I think that Boubacar gives them that high end too, like that they can count on him, like week after week after week. And so that's kind of for me where it's like, I think the D line is going to be like the catalyst for why this team could truly be like a national championship caliber team, because the D line, I think, is as good as it's ever been. Like in the last, I mean, you'd probably go back to 2012, and that team's depth wasn't what it is now, right? Like that, the high end for that team was great. The depth behind was not as good. I think this team has the best of both worlds on the D line.
Yeah, I think that I think that the depth was a little bit different on that 2012 team. I would say like the front three, if we're only talking about the front three, I think that was a pretty good, like they had like 6 guys there that could really play at a pretty high level. And it was really good. Something like the edge guys, maybe I think they lacked a little bit there, like just the traditional, because they had that back then they were playing 3 down and outside linebacker. So I agree with that. But that was, I'm 100% with you that that's probably like the closest to this, just in terms of depth and also like the high end guys. I really think, Boubacar is going to be one of the best defensive ends in the country this year. I think he already played at a really, really high level last year. Played a lot better versus, and really got better versus the run, that I think it didn't really get noticed as much because it's not like a sexy thing to be good versus the run in the same way. There was a lot of extra attention paid to him because teams knew he was the best pass rusher on the team. So I think it's pretty essential that Bryce Young like steps up and has that good year. I do think he is going to level up and be better this year. And could have like a monster breakout like that. We could be talking at some point this season, like, is Bryce Young going to come back for a senior year? Like, I think that's on the table. I mean, we already talked about Dunham on Power Hour the other day. I'm just like, man, so excited for him. And I'm frankly excited to see where Keeley is. I'm excited to see if like Ewatade gets in the mix or one of these other edge guys. But at defensive tackle, like it's the best I felt about defensive tackle going into the season in terms of like their top 5, 6 guys there in a long time. Because you could say like, obviously when they were going into the season with Mills and Cross just recently, that's pretty good. Like they were obviously doing pretty well there, but the drop off after that, there was like a lot of questions of like, well, what are you going to get out of Rubio? Is he going to be there? Cause he had been hurt a lot. Onye, you didn't know at that time, and he still wasn't quite there. Heinisch hadn't really played much yet. There wasn't, and he was undersized. There's just a lot of questions there. And they end up, if you think about it, they end up having like 5 pretty good players there. Injuries obviously played a big role there, but I would say like this 5, 6, like maybe even 7, really, really, really good. Like I'm super excited about Onye and what he can do. I think that second half surge that he had last year is real and is something that we're going to kind of see more of. I don't know if he's going to be a dominant player from week to week. That's what I kind of want to see, but I do think he's going to have some dominant weeks and he's going to be somebody that you have to account for. I do think Brew is going to be very, very good. I really like what I saw from him in the spring. And I think just being more acclimated, to the team and the scheme and to Charlie Partridge, I think are going to go a long, long way. Tion Gray, I think is bare minimum is going to be a very, very good run stuffing, nose tackle. I like Elijah Hughes. Always been a fan of what I've seen from Elijah Hughes. I think he's a quality player, maybe even a guy who could potentially start. Super excited the fact that Armel Mukam put himself in the conversation, right? And I really, really like what I saw from him in the spring. So that's 5 right there that I'm pretty excited about. And then, I mean, they were giving like Cole Mullins some look with the ones. They gave Seviano a little bit of a look with the top group too. I mean, some of it is getting to learn about what these guys can do, but I think a lot of it is those guys earned it and they were able to like do that. And I would say too, because Mike mentioned him on Monday as well. Davion Dixon is a guy who would probably be in the rotation in a lot of other years. And I don't think he's going to be in the rotation this year, but I think he's capable of it. So I'm really, really excited. I want to know how good, like, are they going to have elite seasons from one or two of those guys? Like, I think that is going to be important. But I think they got a lot of candidates, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah. So yours is secondary linebackers, D-line.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine is secondary D-line linebackers. So I did talk about the linebackers. I mean, I'm excited about the group, right? Like it's not, I mean, I think 2 through 4 is kind of in the same tier to me. Like I think secondary is in a class by itself just because of all the things we talked about. 2 through 4 is very similar. And I just, the linebacker group, like I think that honestly, the Jalen Sneed piece is as the season goes on, there's going to be like 6-7 times during a game, if not more than that, where fans, everyone says to themselves, like, it's a good thing Jalen Sneed came back. Right. And it'll just be like little snippets, like little moments in every game where it's like, it's good that he's on the team. Right. And so I think that like really makes a big difference. I'm very curious about Faremo in terms of just like, I think this could be a huge bump up year, like level up year for him. I do think if we were coming into the season, if it was like, for whatever reason, if it was like Osbury and Faremo had to be the starting linebackers, I think that the question that we'd be like, it's new, right? There's an unknown there, but people would be excited about the talent. And then you have Drake Bowen, who's obviously been around for a long time. I think Drake Bowen, as much as any other player on the defense, was hurt by the first 2 games in terms of fan perception because of, we do know that there was
one play, I think, like that's
100%. Which, again, we talked about it at the time. Didn't really play it poorly. It just like he just got on the wrong shoulder, and that sucks, right? It totally sucks. But I also think that the way that they were playing defense at that time was not beneficial to him in his skill set and the way that he'd been playing. So, and that changed as the season went on. So, very excited about that group. Who do you have at number 4?
I had the offensive line. I wondered because I had it. To me, it was like offensive line or receiver. And that's how I kind of had it. It was pretty close, but so I'm curious because you were like very, you sounded certain that, that was your 4. So before I get into it, was that your 4 or who did you have?
No, it's not. No.
Who did you have as your 4?
A 4 is quarterback.
Okay. Cause quarterback for me, I just put, just because of the depth, obviously CJ Carr is, like you can almost put it 1, like, in terms of just so it's kind of hard to do, so I didn't really know where to put it. So it
is difficult. So
for sure. I'm fine with just going having that as
what I will say, if you ordered it that way, like I do have offensive line then wide receiver after that, so our order is correct in that way. The thing with Carr is like I can't and like I get it with the depth, right? And I understand that. I can't put CJ Carr like below the line and the wide receivers, because I think just his overall talent, and it's like the expectation is he's going to play every snap. I think the fact that like we don't know at all who will start behind him if something were to happen, who's coming in, what that level is going to look like, really, that hurts it, But like CJ Carr is just good enough to the point where it's like I need to give him that benefit of the doubt. Like he's going to be the quarterback, and I'm not going to kill him with the depth too much because it is positions, but like he's the quarterback. It just that's how I viewed it. It's almost like it's almost better to not include the quarterback at all.
Yeah, that's why we talked about it. Before we started.
Yeah,
and I asked him, like, are we including quarterback? Because you could almost put it in a separate category.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, is that when, like last year, for instance, before the quarterback position was settled, it's like, where are you going to put the quarterback? You feel good about like, hey, they got someone who's talented there and the backup's going to be good, whatever. But where are you going to put it? Because the guys haven't really played yet. So it's hard. Obviously, having a returning guy who had played at a really high level and is going to be better this year, that's exciting and awesome. I think I know a lot of Notre Dame fans have looked at it and been like, oh my God, if something happens, they got to play the number 2 guy, whatever. Every team, like pretty much every team. I think if you look at like the Athletic came out with their rankings for their top quarterbacks, right? Or tiers. They put tiers of quarterbacks, right? They copied the same thing that or were inspired by what Mike Sando does for ESPN.
Yeah.
And if you go look at the backups for a lot of these teams, it's some of these guys have some blue chip guys that are waiting there. You don't know if those guys are even going to be good. Guys don't really have experience. Most of the guys have like just nobodies behind them, right? Like, I mean, let's say Jada Maeva from USC comes back, had a great year last year, probably going to have another awesome year this year for them. Well, they lost the guy who was their backup, Houston Longstreet. He went to LSU. Well, who's their backup this year? How's that guy going to be if he has to come in?
Yeah.
Probably not great. Like, it's probably going to be a pretty big drop off. And I think that's pretty similar for most teams.
I think, though, like when you look at our rankings here, let's say CJ Carr had to miss 2-3 games or whatever. The defense is the top 3 groups for us.
Yeah.
And like that means every single game that Notre Dame plays, like they will be in it. You truly, in every single game, if you just look, 3 scores, like 2 touchdowns and a field goal, 17 points. If Notre Dame gets to 17 points in every single game, like they are in it, because this defense is not going to give up points. They just are not. They're built in a way where unless there's like, and this is, there was a question about complimentary football on irishsportsdaily.com message board. And this is that situation where like, unless there's pick sixes, unless there's fumbles and that sort of thing, but that goes down to complimentary football. And if Notre Dame had to go with whatever backup quarterback, like it would be up to Mike Denbrock and Gino Guidugli to A, get whatever quarterback ready, and B, like don't put your team in a situation where you're giving the other team points, because this defense is not going to give up points. They simply are not. Like I would be kind of shocked if they gave up, like averaged more than like 16 points a game. It could be like 12 or 10 or whatever. Like they are that good. So I think the fact that like, everyone, because in the chat, everyone says like the season rests on CJ Carr and his health. It does and it doesn't, right? Like at some point you get to the playoffs. Okay. You need CJ Carr as your quarterback. But before that, Notre Dame is going to be in every single game. Like they are. The defense is that good.
Yeah. And I would say, because you could, perfect example, Georgia, Carson Beck getting hurt, Gunnar Stockton stepping up. It's pretty obvious Gunnar Stockton was way better this past season in 2025 than he was when he played against Notre Dame in that day, right? Like he had gained experience. He was much better. He was much better, more comfortable in the offense. was the QB, came in as QB1, was the guy for them. They kind of built the offense around him at that point. It's a lot different. And that's what I think too, like for backup quarterbacks, it also matters like when somebody gets hurt. Because if you have like Tom Brady coming in for the Patriots, they had that whole season to kind of like if Drew Bledsoe got hurt in week 14 and Tom Brady had to come in then, they're probably not winning the Super Bowl. Like it's just and maybe Tom Brady never wins the job and all that kind of stuff because the chances of that of him getting acclimated and him achieving to the level that he took that whole season to kind of reach a certain level. And even then, I think anyone who watched those teams would know that he wasn't the same quarterback in year one that he was like many years later.
Yeah. Okay. So you have offensive line and then you have offensive line after defensive line. So let's go through there.
Yeah. So I think you could just say, just in general, they have 71% of their total snaps returning from last year. That's significantly more than they've had the last 2 years. It was 48.8% in 2024. That was like, the infamous, hey, they got 6 starts coming back for the guys who were starting at the time, even though they had a couple other guys like Coogan and Spindler who were on the bench who started for full season. And then last year it was 58.6%. So 71, it's quite a bit more. Like 70% of your snaps coming back. That's a lot. You have Knapp coming back, who started a lot in the last 2 years, played a ton already, moving inside the guard. I think that's a better fit for him and shows that they have the confidence in a guy like Will Black to play left tackle. Will Black, as high of a ceiling as they've had really at the position. And that says a lot when you've had Joe Alt and you've had all these other guys, but he's capable of developing into like a first round pick type of talent. That is on the table for him. Now, is he going to play like a first round pick this year? I don't know, but definitely has that talent level, and you expect him to like get better as the season goes along and eventually play at that level. Lambert coming back as a guy who started last year, like I mentioned with Mike yesterday. By the time they get to later in the season, he'll have like 20 starts under his belt. And he's also playing at his more natural position. I think he's going to get better. You see the units get better as the season goes along. That's what we've seen with Joe Rudolph's groups in general. Then you have Ashton Craig, who's a veteran center who, when he's healthy, has played at a high level. Obviously, you got to figure out when he's going to be healthy. But Joe Waddy started 6 games last year. Sullivan Absher started 5 games. So you got those guys who basically started the last half of the season. You also have Charles Jagasaw in your backpack pocket of, do you know if he's going to play or not? No. But if he's able to come back and be a player, not a lot of people have that there.
Yeah.
Everyone's heard about the buzz about Matty Augustine and him like potentially pushing for a job. Even if he stays as your 6th O lineman or 6th or 7th, that's pretty good. You really need like 7 or 8 guys. And Notre Dame has that. And that's not even to say that they won't get from another guy that we haven't talked about, a Styles Prescott or whoever, like just steps up and becomes a guy who's capable of playing in a pinch too. So I really like where they're at. I think talent-wise across the board, 1 through 5, I think it's better than it has been for Notre Dame probably since like the 2020 season. I think when you look at like they had Banks, they had Hainsey, Eichenberg, Patterson, but I think and Tommy Kramer. There's these guys like Lambert and Black have higher ceilings than any of those guys on that group, and I think Knapp has a high ceiling as any of those other guys too. So I'm excited. I'm really, really excited about the O-line this year.
Yeah, like I think they have a good mix of like depth, experience, and high-end talent. And so like Lambert and Black give them the high end. Lambert gives them experience. Knapp gives them experience. Craig gives them experience. He's been in the program for a long time. I mean, even Sullivan Absher gives them, experience. He hasn't started a ton, but he's been around the program for a long time, and he's played a good amount of football too. And then you have the depth behind where it's like you have Matty Augustine. Like, I think the fact that he's kind of pushing there, we heard good things about Styles Prescott, like in the spring too. Like he was coming along as well. So you're talking about 7 who you feel good about, and not just that, but Lambert and Knapp they have position versatility, so they can move around as well. And I think that's important, right? So it kind of checks all the boxes in terms of what you want. You wish that there was a little bit more like just high end, right? And maybe Lambert gets there and maybe Black gets there. It's just like that high end piece is a little bit unknown. That's why they're not higher on the list. But like you like what you got going on with the offensive line. Like there's not a ton of questions, right? It's just a matter of like, can they get coached up to the point where we feel like they can reach the potential that they have. You had wide receiver after that, and so did I. I think that there's questions about like Mylan Graham, for example, new starter. There's questions about Jaden Greathouse. Is he healthy? Right. But you don't have questions about Jordan Faison, right? He's been a mainstay in the offense for a number of years now. I do like their depth, and I do like while there are questions about Mylan Graham, like I feel pretty confident about him, and he's going to be a good player. And we did get a super chat from JSOM23, so I appreciate that. So read this now. Thoughts on where Porter and Grant end up on the depth chart week 1. A lot of buzz, obviously, but wonder where they compare to Faison, Greathouse, and Gilbert. On Porter, we don't know anything about him. He is literally like only doing individual stuff right now. That's the latest we've heard. I don't honestly, I don't know that anyone should be like counting on him next year. He's not with the team yet. Like he's not. He's with the team.
He's with the team, but he's not. Yeah, he's not doing
working with
team activities yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like that. We're far away from considering him at this point. So that's where I'm at with Porter. Graham, I expect to be a starter, not just a starter, but like a very key player on this football team.
Yeah, at bare minimum, he'll come into week 1 with or beside his name as with the ones, right? Like, because I could easily see them doing like Greathouse and Graham or because Greathouse has also earned what he's done over the years to be, a starter too. To even though he missed most of last season and a lot of the spring too. I mean, he probably deserves. They've given way lesser guys the or thing out of respect than him, so he's going to be there. And also, you expect Greathouse to play a lot and play well. But Graham could lead the team in receiving.
Yeah,
that is on the table. It's definitely on the table. I mean, I would probably bet on Faison would be the strongest bet, I think, to lead the team in receiving. And I think he's going to have a great year, and he looked great in the spring, and he had a really good year last year, and I think he's going to be even better. And I think right there, if you're going to say like, who are the top 3 guys, think if Greathouse is healthy, and he is, from by all accounts, he has been healthy this summer and is healthy, going to be going into camp unless we hear something different before. But from what we know, he's been healthy. So I would say him, Graham, and Faison are going to be the top 3, and then it's like TBD after that. I wouldn't even put Gilbert technically. Like, I think Gilbert's got a really good chance to be the starting boundary. It's not a given. He still has to, go and earn it and show more and show that he can be more of. Yeah, he's just not going to be a piece. Like, he's not going to be the 3rd or 4th guy. He can be like maybe like a 2 or something like that. Can he do that? So I think that part is undetermined, but I also think some of that is because they have a bunch of young guys that I think could play this year. Elijah Burris, I think Devin Fitzgerald, Caden Finley. Like, not all these guys are boundaries, but I'm just saying like those guys have a chance to play this year where you wouldn't say that, or Bubba Frazier, another guy, right?
Right.
And most of those guys are field boundary or field slot guys. But I do think they could do some stuff where they move people around and give other guys a look. Like, and that's not even mentioning like Cam Williams, who I think Cam Williams, he's still not someone that you could pencil in and say, hey, for sure he's going to play. But he has certainly flashed enough to say if he had a breakout year, you wouldn't be shocked by it. You'd be maybe mildly surprised based on like where he's at, because he's never really ascended to the level where you're like, he's running with the ones and he's getting a lot of reps there. And he hasn't got that yet, but maybe he'll get there in fall camp. Maybe that's what's going to happen. So I think it's like an interesting position to watch in August and also at the beginning of the season to see who really kind of like separates themselves.
Yeah, like when you're at practice, right? And it's just seeing who's taking the reps in what order in the line. Like especially now. In the spring, less so. In the fall, it's kind of a bigger deal. It's indicative of where they think they are. Like I think Cam Williams, like we'll know it in the first couple practices, like where he's at. You know, because they're just you just don't give away reps in the fall. We've talked about it a ton. Fall camp is very different than spring. Spring is for development, and everyone understands that. Fall camp is like, okay, we're getting ready to play football games now. And that's when everyone starts thinking about their spot and their reps and everything. Like the intensity is just that much higher. So we'll see on Cam. I just think the depth is there in a way that it hasn't been in the past. You know, if like kind of whoever's out there, like there were times when it's like, man, this is what they're rolling with at wide receiver. Like right now, right? Like this is a big moment and that this guy's out there. I don't know that there's anyone out there who you would think, well, I don't want him out there. You know, like even like Logan Saldate, who we didn't really mention, like he's a guy who could get in there and make a play, right? It would be surprising probably, right? And some guys would be surprising based on what we see in the fall camp and, you know, how much work they're getting. But they have a lot of options and they have guys like Jordan Faison's going to be a leader. Like Jaden Greathouse is going to be a leader, right? Let's just see what we get from Mylan Graham. I think sky's the limit for him. You know, I do. I think he could be like a breakout star for Notre Dame in a way that, you know, they really need, you know, because it would really elevate the offense when we talk a ton about, you know, explosives and things like that. Like he is that type of player. All right. After wide receiver, where are you going? Last two positions.
Running back. Okay. And again, this is not really indicative of what the talent level is there. It's more of them losing Love and Price, were 2 first-round picks, and just having less proven guys. And Aeneas Williams is the guy who's most proven, and he's never been a lead back yet. I think he's probably capable of it, but we got to see. We got to see it. I think he's going to have a really good year. I think even if he's your number 2, it means that somebody was really, really good to be your number 1. That's how I kind of see it, because I think he's definitely a starting caliber back and a guy who has a chance to be a really, really good productive player, a guy who catches the ball extremely well, really, really talented receiver. All he's ever done is have success running the ball. Like, he's not a guy who goes down on first contact. He runs really hard. He's just a smart football player, a physical football player, got the kind of grit that you want. I think he might end up being the best short yardage guy that Notre Dame has had in a few years, because he just has that kind of lean where he
not easily tackled. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's going to have a really good year. I think Nolan James looked really good in the spring. Looked really good. Looks like very capable. And he's another guy who played a little bit of receiver in high school. He can catch the ball really well. If he's your number 2, that's a pretty good number 2. And it's not to say that he couldn't be number 1. Now you want to see if, like, he didn't really break anything that we saw or that we had heard about, that he was breaking off a lot of long stuff. I think you got to have some explosiveness there. So you want to see where he's at. And in that part of his game. And we talked about Walton the other day, right? Like he's the guy who did show that, and he showed it against the backups or whatever, right? Against third team for the most part. Well, you got to do that first, and then you start getting those chances. So we'll see if he's getting reps with the top group, then he's someone to watch out for, right? And I think he showed enough there that I think he's got a chance to play early and maybe give them a little bit of that element. Obviously, we don't know what the status of in terms of Ge Young, and is he going to be a guy who really like hits the ground running and he's good to go in August and looks like he's really like in the mix. I think they really want to give him a chance to get in the mix because he's super talented and he's unique, obviously being, 230 plus pounds and to run like he can. So I want to see where he's at. Certainly very intriguing talent and could be a big factor this year. And then Osborne was hurt in the spring. So we got to see where Osborne's at. Doesn't mean that he can't really get in the mix too. They got 5 guys there that are pretty talented. It's about kind of like figuring out who are your top 2, who are your top 3. Do you have a guy who's really an RB1? Do you have that?
Yeah.
At bare minimum, I think they're going to have at least like a 1A and 1B. I think bare minimum, maybe even more than that. So we'll see.
I think people forget like Ge Young's played in games, and it was it was 2 years ago, right? It was in 2024 as a mop-up duty every single time. But he's gotten some carries, He's gotten in the game and he's done some stuff, right? I mean, he scored touchdowns. So he's not completely green. I think the fact that, when you have an injury like that, people, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind kind of thing, especially in playing the spring. So I don't really know what to make of him. I always liked him. I thought he showed like just a lot. I mean, I compared him to Frank Gore, long time ago. What does he look like, right? What does he look? Again, the reps. Where is he in the pecking order as far as like going through drills and stuff, going through the bags and whatnot? How does he look physically? Those are all questions that we need to know. I'm a big believer in Jonas Walton. I talked about it on the last show. I think he showed something. I think that he showed enough. I don't care who he's against. He showed enough in terms of skill set that when you marry it with his speed, you got something there. And so I think for running back, it's like you don't have the high end, but you have a handful of guys that you feel good about being in the game, And I think that's a good thing when you look at the fact that you have the quarterback and you have the wide receivers, who we also agree with. Pat Simkowski says, this might be a dumb question, but not just give the ball to Walton 10 times against Rice. It seems the biggest concern is fumbling with young running backs. If he doesn't do that, why not elevate him? I mean, if the Rice game goes the way that we think it'll go, he'll get a lot of work. Well,
not a lot, but he'll get some work.
Well, he'll get work. I mean, here's the thing. 10 carries is a lot of carries. Like, if you think about it, like it's 10 times that you're saying, specifically, I'm giving the ball to this player. Like there were times in 2024 when it's like late third and Jeremiah Love has 10 carries, right? Like it's hard to accumulate carry. It's harder than you think is what I'll say.
Yeah. And think about, they were up 21-0 before, the offense took a snap against Syracuse. They ran 39 plays against Syracuse. They won 70-7. They ran 39 plays on offense. Yeah. Like you could score 70 points and then no one's getting 10 carries.
But the sentiment is there. Like he
I totally understand what Pat's saying. But it's like, you can't say this person's going to get this amount of carries or whatever. First of all, too, he might not be the number 3. It might be that Ge Young is the third guy. Yeah. So if Ge Young is a third guy, or it might be Nolan James or something, like, so they're going to give it to the third guy, whoever that is in that situation, just like how Aeneas Williams last year. Let's just say if they go with 2 like they did last year, Juwan Siders had a little bit of a mix where he's had like RB1. This guy is like the guy. He plays almost all the time. RB2 plays a tiny bit, and then everybody else way down. He's also had the thing with where he had Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, similar to what happened with Price and Love last year. He's also had it where they've played like three guys. But a lot of times when you're playing three guys, it means you don't know who the guy is, or you don't have two guys that you think are there. So unless you're Dylan McCullough, because he wants to play that many guys. But if you're going to do that this year, I think they might have three guys. Maybe there's not enough separation between that. But I think my guess is they're probably going to have two guys that they end up being those guys. And then the third guy will be like Aeneas last year, where in those blowouts, he's going to get something. And then the fourth guy get, a smidge.
Yeah. The last group is obviously tight end. And I think everyone understands that. Everyone kind of understands why. What are they getting out of Cooper Flanagan, right? What are they getting out of James Flanagan, who I'm a big believer in? Obviously, Ian Premer is simmering there, right? Like that is a story that needs to get told very soon. There's a lot of excitement there. They got guys who can play, right? I mean, but it kind of determines like how good are they, that how much are they going to play? Are they going to be able to play 12, right? The way that we know Notre Dame wants to, right? So that's going to be something to track. I don't think Preston Fries was going to be ready. Jack Larson, we've liked him at times, but hasn't really been able to get into the lineup. Like, what is he going to offer Notre Dame? So that's kind of where it's at. It's not just because it's last, it doesn't mean that the talent isn't there, or they don't have depth or the options. It's just that kind of the rest of the roster is really, really talented and really, really deep. And so, it is what it is. But I think this is it's a good group. I don't know that would you call it a weakness? I wouldn't call it a weakness in any kind of way. I think they got enough good players to where it's like you got good players out there when the tight ends are playing. It's just, it's not of the caliber yet as the rest of the team.
Yeah, and I also could see it being emphasized more as the season goes along. Like, I think that is something I would say, like, depth-wise, probably as good. They have way better depth this year than they had last year. Mm-hmm. Pat Reardon was out of eligibility. He was a senior, so he couldn't come back. If there was the 5-for-5 thing, he would have had that, but they don't have the 5-for-5. So he couldn't have come back. I'm sure they would have loved if he was able to come back. I think this year Cooper Flanagan is guaranteed he's going to play a big role. Now, I'm not talking about what his role is in the passing game and how many targets he's going to get there. I think he's a little bit better than people think as a receiver, but he is probably the best since Tommy Tremble as a blocker, where Tommy Tremble, Brock Wright, same kind of thing where it's like, man, this guy elevates the run game by how good he is as a run blocker. And I think they really missed him last year in that sense too. They could have really, really used him. And I think that was another thing that probably got overlooked, is he was someone who was really important to their running game too, just as that second tight end in a lot of stuff, or the third tight end really, because Reardon was the second tight end there. Like, that's a pretty good third tight end if that's your third tight end, when they had Evans and Reardon in front of them. Well, now he's going to be a guy who's like tight end 1 or tight end 2. Either way, he's going to probably play the same amount of snaps or something like that as whoever the other guy is. Doesn't mean he's going to get the same amount of targets. We didn't see the tight ends highlighted a lot in the spring, but you want to see where that goes with. I don't think Ty Washington can play, but I don't think Ty Washington is going to be anyone who's going to be featured in that way ever. I think most likely he's going to be like tight end 3 probably, and Flanagan is somebody who could do a lot as an inline blocker, as a move tight end, as a blocker too. So you got two guys there in, like, the law firm of Flanagan who can like really like add a lot in the running game. And James Flanagan, he's a really, really good athlete. And how does that translate to him as a receiver? And if he all of a sudden kind of becomes a playmaker, and then you have Larson, I mean, is a talented receiver. He's really got great ball skills. He's not like an elite athlete or anything, but he's a really, really good receiver. He's kind of got to hold. He's got obviously got to hold off a guy like Ian Premer, and I don't know if that's possible because Premer is just another world of an athlete, probably compared to everybody out of the group. James Flanagan is probably the closest to him. So, but he's coming in the summer. He's not, even though I would say talent wise, he's probably more talented, just raw talent than Michael Mayer. Not as advanced as Michael Mayer when he came in the summer and was someone who was like really above and beyond a lot of people in terms of like route running and just understanding stuff. And I don't know where Premer is, and we're going to have to see where he is in camp, but he's also someone, put him on the list of, as the season goes along, even if he's just getting a taste early, it might turn into something more where he could become a really big factor later on.
Like he could be something in the Miami game.
Yeah.
Less so than maybe like BYU, for example. You know,
well, maybe even BYU, he could be ready, but just, I wouldn't expect, I would be pretty surprised if he was like, wow, Premer played like 30 snaps in the Wisconsin game. Like
I would be surprised by that.
Because if that happens, that is I mean, then get it.
If that happens,
get aboard the train.
If that happens, like you almost have to like rethink the ranking of the position, you know? Like,
I think, well, and that's why too, like when we go and we'll revisit this later on, in terms of camp, because that's the thing. It's like things change in camp where you view certain positions, because there's always guys who are progressing and doing different things. And it's just where are the guys going to take, there's going to be some young guy or two or three or four who make a big leap and show that like, oh, this guy's ready to do this. And then that changes how you view things, right? Like Ben Morrison was not even, no one was thinking about him before the camp. No one's thinking, man, Ben Morrison's really going to be a huge factor this year. I mean, as a freshman, and then all of a sudden you saw him the first thing, you're like, oh, he's going to play. And then a few games in, he's starting, and then he never left the starting lineup, and it was great, right? So, and same thing with Leonard Moore too. Like, you know, him coming in, you just never know. And and then that's not even bringing into guys like Hamilton and Mayer who come in the summer, and you're like, oh my, these guys just superior talents. So I'm excited. Like, and if I was going to put a list of guys that I think because there's so many more early enrollees now there, but I would say like Ebenezer Avotade, you know, that's a guy that I'm like, where's he at in the spring? Because he might be someone who we think, he had some really nice flashes in the spring to being like, oh, he's going to play this year. Like, I think that could happen.
Yeah. I mean, in 2023, I think I ranked the safeties like last, and Xavier Watts ended up winning
All-American,
Defensive Player of the Year in college football. You know, so things can change for sure. All right, we can end it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you heard, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know whenever it is we are going live. Jamie's traveling on Thursday, so we'll see if a show gets put together. Right now, I would say don't plan on a show, but we'll see. I see if I could pull a guest in here and we can talk about Notre Dame football. But if not, we'll be back next week. So enjoy your rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll talk to you soon. Keep hitting and hustling.